Always great catching up with my next guest. Maycee Barber is coming off a huge win at UFC 299. She's got a lot going on right now. We're going to get all into it. Maycee, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So are you in Colorado, California? Where are you right now?
Yeah, I'm in Colorado. I'll be leaving, I think I leave tomorrow. I'm going to head to Arizona and then Vegas and then California and then, yeah, kind of all over the place.
For sure. Because your family's still in Colorado, right? If I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, my sister's out here. My best friend's out.
Okay, well, it works out great. And obviously, I know you're here a little bit longer as well because of what happened. We might as well get into that. You got pneumonia. I know you made the posts and everything. What exactly happened? How did you end up getting pneumonia, I guess would be my first question.
Yeah, I mean, pneumonia was kind of like the last, topper for everything else that was going on. It's kind of crazy. I fought Saturday, and then Sunday I spent, a little bit of time on the beach. And then I decided to fly to Colorado on Monday. And when I got to Colorado, I spent the day, woke up the next day in the morning, and my leg, I had a little bit of my skin was hurting and I couldn't figure it out. And I was a little bit confused because I was just putting lotion on. And I was like, oh, my leg hurts. And then a couple hours later, I was like, oh, I can't even have my pants on my leg. It was burning so bad. And it started to turn red. And then a couple hours later, this progressed through the whole day. A few hours later, it was getting to the point where it was so painful. I called Bobby and Heather and I was like, what do I do? What should I do? I don't understand what this is. Cause it wasn't anything I had got kicked or I had kicked her. I couldn't figure it out. Cause I was there was no bruise on my leg on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, nothing. And then, I called Heather, called Bobby, and they were like, all right, go to urgent care and see, because they thought maybe it was a blood clot. And so I went to urgent care, and they took a look. They're like, well, maybe it's a blood clot, whatever. We'll try to get you in for an ultrasound tomorrow. And so we called and got the ultrasound, and it was scheduled for 4 o'clock. And when I got in the car, I was in so much pain that I started crying.
Right.
And we were like, all right, that's it. We're going to the ER. So we went to the emergency room. And by that point, I was 102, 103 fever. They started running tests. They were like, okay, they did the same thing. They were like, oh, you're a fighter. So it was probably you probably just got hit. It's probably just a fracture or something. So they also thought about the blood clot. And they were like, well, we'll rule everything out. So they did an ultrasound. They ran lab work. They did a urine test. They did all sorts of different things trying to figure out what it was. And I was in the ER till 3 a.m.
Okay. And
they didn't really have any answers. They ran me for just the different things and couldn't figure it out. So they sent me home. I had 102 or 103 fever. And they were like, all right, here's some oxy and some antibiotics. We'll just send you home. And I went to bed that night and I woke up the whole night I was sweating, and a lot of it is I don't really remember a lot of it, but everyone's been telling me kind of the parts of it. And they were like, I had 105.8 fever.
Damn.
And they were putting ice packs on me trying to get me cooled down, and it wasn't working. So then they called the emergency room because the emergency room had already sent me home. So they called them and they were like, all right, well, you should get an ambulance or you should go back to the ER. So I went back to the ER, and that's when they started running tests, and I had a different doctor that time. And same thing, they started running the tests, and fast forward, they were like, we're going to admit you into the hospital because you've come back already. And then everything, they just kept running tests. I did lab work, I had IVs, I had all this stuff, and they were trying to rule out everything. So from sepsis to staph to MRSA to all the different things. And we still, to this day, there's no 100% answer, which is so frustrating to me because it's
yeah,
it's tough. You don't have an answer for what it is. And I'm I had 105 fever. They kept trying to get the fever down. It lasted for 3-4 days that they couldn't get the fever to reduce. And it's exhausting. I feel I think I went TMI, but I went pee once in 2-3 days. It was insane. My body was just in a rough shape. It was scary, honestly. My leg was in so much pain, and I was in rough shape.
That's nuts. Yeah.
I spent 9 days.
Yeah, not exactly a good post-fight celebration. Yeah.
Yeah, I spent 9 days in the hospital, and luckily, I had an amazing group of people that was taking care of me from, some family friends and Karina and my best friend. And then my family came out. It was really good, like, to have such a good support system, but also it was like, man, these are the people that, like, they might be the last people I see.
Right. Well, let me ask you that. As this is all happening, are you thinking you're dying? Like, I mean, if they can't figure it out and things aren't getting better, did that cross your mind? Like this could be really serious.
I mean, the two things that crossed my mind were, one, that I could potentially lose my leg.
Right.
And then the other part was that there was a night, it was like Tuesday and Wednesday night that I was in there. It was like, I want to say it was like day 4 and 5 that I was laying in the bed, and it was at night, and they gave me some sort of medication that did not mix well with my body, and my blood pressure dropped, my heart rate had dropped, my oxygen had dropped, and like everything had dropped, and they had to put me on oxygen, and they had to keep me like awake to the point where like I seriously started crying. I was like, I didn't think I was gonna make it through that night. And my mom was staying with me in the hospital that night, and it was like, I was just laying there crying. Like I was so scared. Like I didn't think that I was gonna possibly make it. And it's a scary thing to think about, because like I don't want to be like, I honestly thought I was gonna die, but like in that moment I was like, I might not make it out. I really didn't think I was gonna make it.
Well, the good news is you're better now. That's great. And obviously not the way you wanted things to go. Were there any symptoms at all prior to the fight, or this all happened after?
So the only thing that I noticed that I had in common was my neck and my head were hurting the week of the fight. And I couldn't figure out why. Like, it was like the biggest headache and the worst neck pain I've ever had. And I had that same neck and head pain on Sunday after the fight. But like this camp, like leading up to this fight, like, again, I never want to like have like a whole list of like, oh, this was this, and let me give you my whole like sob story of how terrible this camp was. But this was honestly one of the toughest camps, and I think it all compiled, and my body at the end was just like, we're done. Right. Because I went from having surgery, I had surgery on my foot, and every time I have a surgery, so from my hand surgery, my knee surgery, my foot surgery, every single time I have a surgery, I end up with some sort of infection. And I had my foot surgery, and then while I was still on the non-weight bearing and on my scooter with my foot, and like I wasn't even allowed to walk. I remember Mick texted me the day before my surgery, was like, hey, can you fight? And he offered me the fight, and I was like, well, I'm going in for surgery. And so he was like, oh yeah. So I took that, like I couldn't take it then, and then we changed it to another date. He asked me for January. I was like, I can't take it then. So they asked me for February, and I was agreed to fight Katlyn for February. And then obviously I had my foot surgery. Then I ended up with some tears in my hip. Like I'd torn my hip from trying to come back. And so I got stem cell in my hip. And then right after that, I got kicked in the head on my first sparring session back. And I ended up with like a minor concussion. Wow. And so, yeah, I was out. I got kicked in the head pretty good. So that's when I had to call Mick. I was like, hey, I need to move the fight to March. So I needed some more time just to get like healed and get back. And then right after that, as soon as like my concussion and all that was clear, I got an infection in my hand, and I was on antibiotics for 2 weeks. So this was like 4 weeks before the fight that I was like one thing after the next. And it was like, I think that my body overall, and then going into like trying to train hard and then cutting weight and then doing the water cut and then going in and fighting someone, I think that my body at this point was just like, all right, we've had enough. Like, yeah, we need to, it just shut down. So what a crazy thing. And like, it's a lot of things that people don't get to see, but it's one of the testaments, I think, of us fighters. I think is pretty incredible, because like, I'm not the only one that's had to deal with stuff like this. Like, there's so many fighters out there that push their bodies through the limits to be able to go out and put on a performance and to go out and be able to chase their dream. And so I think that it's one of those things that like being able to experience it for myself, it makes me really admire other athletes that continue to push through that kind of stuff, even though it's sometimes at times it's not like necessarily the smartest thing or the healthiest thing for us to do.
No, I think it's good to mention. And also, people can't give you crap. You won the fight. It would be different if you didn't win the fight. But you know what I mean? Like that.
I'm so mad though. Like I felt like I should have finished her. And I just didn't, like, in that fight. I just didn't feel like I had that extra little bit. And again, like, I'm not taking away from her because I think she's a phenomenal fighter and she's obviously, a veteran of the sport. But for me, I'm like, I felt it in the fight. I was like, she didn't have the strength that I thought she was going to have. She didn't have the power. I knew that she didn't have the power to, like, put me out or anything. But at the same time, like, I didn't feel like I had that little extra bit and extra, like, that extra little bit that I have in all my other fights, and I just didn't feel like I had that in that fight. And I was so frustrated. But at the end of the fight, I was like, it's over. Like, I pushed through so much and, like, finally, like, we got it. But I was a little bit upset that I didn't get to finish because I truly feel like that was a fight that I would have finished.
Where does that win rank, though? I mean, despite everything, you got the win. Katlyn's a former title challenger. That, I think on paper, that's your biggest win. But how did you feel about that performance overall compared to some of your other wins?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I really wanted to finish that fight. But at the same time, Katlyn, like you said, is someone who's been there for she's been there a long time, former title challenger. I felt like, for me, a finish would have really solidified me in a better spot. But a dominant win in the fashion that I had also solidifies me in a, there's not a question that I don't belong in the top and that I should have a title shot at some point. So for me, I'm still happy with it. And also, again, like I said, it's a testament of just how much I can push through and still have a dominant performance against someone like Katlyn, off of so many little bumps in the road, Yeah. So I was still, looking back, I'm still happy about it,
No, you should. I mean, again, it was a great win, and I don't think there's any question you won. Like, that's also nice too when you go to the judges. You don't have to worry about it being close. So you got the win there. There's a lot going on in your division right now. I wanted to start first with Rose Namajunas, who fought last weekend against a former opponent of yours, Amanda Ribas. What did you think of that fight and that performance from Rose in that main event last weekend?
Watching that fight, it was like, knowing that I finished Amanda, it's like I'll also finish Rose. I think that Rose has been there for a long time, and her coming up in the division, I don't necessarily understand or know if I agree with her being in the 25 division. I think she's still like, size-wise, not necessarily going to fit in. But at the same time, she feels as though her not cutting to 15 is healthier for her, and I understand that. So hopefully, she's continued to fill out in the division, and I think it was a good performance. I don't really have, like, it wasn't like a finish or anything. It was just another decision. So
I'm sure you saw after the fight, she did call you out for a fight. Your thoughts on that potentially as your next fight, or what are sort of your thoughts on what's next for you?
Yeah, I think that's a great, it's a great matchup for me. The only downside is I'm fighting backwards, for the first time I can actually say, fighting Rose Namajunas would be me fighting backwards in the division. Even though, a win over her is like a win over a former champion, a win over someone who has been in such a great position for so long. It would be a great win for me and a great finish for me. And so that's kind of, it's something I have been thinking about. Like, I would like to fight her for sure. I know she mentioned that we had, like, some finished, not necessarily drama, but we do have some history. I used to train with her out here in Denver. And then I fought Audrey Perkins, which was a former teammate of hers. And then I fought JJ Aldrich. And I remember Rose and Pat being I think they were in the corner in the crowd. And just Rose, it just broke her when I beat JJ. And so I just know that, there is some bitterness there where she's like, she wants to be the one to beat me. And also, we have that, like, I've always looked up to Rose. I think she's a great athlete, and I've always loved watching her fight. But at the same time, it's like, it's my time now, she's been there, and now it's my chance.
And then this weekend, we have another flyweight main event, Erin Blanchfield, Manon Fiorot. Before we talk about sort of the implications on that fight, who do you think wins that fight? Because I know Erin's the favorite, but Manon has obviously looked good. She had a win over Rose in her last fight as well.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting. I mean, it's obviously it's the striker grappler. Erin's the grappler, and Min has the striking. I could see it going to a decision. I don't really think that either of them are very exciting fighters, in my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see. I think if Manon can keep the distance, she can piece Erin up. I don't think Erin has very good striking, so it'll be interesting to see.
But so do you think Manon wins that, or do you think Erin gets it done?
I don't know. Honestly, I
Okay.
honestly don't know. It's
Okay.
it's kind of a toss up. If Manon can keep it on the feet, I think she can outstrike Erin. And if Erin can get her down, I mean, I think that Erin's obviously we've all seen that Erin has great jiu-jitsu. So I think that that's the main thing and the only thing that she possesses. And I don't know if I've seen too much of Manon's ground game.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then. Erin, I think, is almost a 2-1 favorite in the fight. Do you think that's accurate, or should the fight be closer to like a pick'em if you're kind of picking that fight?
Yeah, I think it's more of a pick'em. I don't really see either one of them like, oh, she's gonna just dominate,
Yeah. No, that's fair. I do have to bring up this quote from Erin. I don't know if you've seen it yet. She had a long quote, but I'm going to take the part that I think people really took notice of. She, referring to you, says she's a little pathetic for how she talks for somebody who's not willing to fight people at the highest level that are really at the top of their game. What do you say to that? I know there's been stuff said before with you too, and I know she claims that I guess there were fights offered to you or something like that. But what do you make of? Because it's kind of exciting as well. A little bit of trash talk.
Erin fought my leftovers. So Erin fought JJ Aldrich after I beat her.
Right.
Erin fought Miranda Maverick after I beat her. So Erin's fighting the leftovers. And she's fighting girls after I've already changed them. So like JJ Aldrich after I beat her was never the same fighter that she was ever again. She was always shy of getting hit after I hit her. Erin doesn't have the power that I have, and so for her to say that, I think it's just completely ignorant and uneducated. And I think that she's just trying to create the storyline and the drama. And I saw the comment of like her saying that I turned down a fight or I pulled out of a fight. I was scheduled to fight Montana De La Rosa, and Montana got her ankle torn. And then I needed a replacement, so they offered me Erin. I said yes. And then right after that, I tore my ankle. So then the fight to be remade was me against Montana, and that's what Mick wanted. So that's what happened. So
yeah, we're setting the record straight for sure.
Yeah. That's how the record is. Like that's literally the facts. I have complete we got text receipts if we need it, but honestly, I think that for Erin to say that is uneducated.
So you mentioned Rose is behind you in the rankings. We talked about this fight this weekend. What is next for you? Like with that win, again, former title challenger, who would you like to fight next?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it time and time again. I want my rematch with Alexa Grasso. Now, given that Alexa and Valentina are the coaching
Ultimate Fighter, yeah.
Yep, and most likely, they're going to have their trilogy. And then we also have Erin and Manon fighting, so it'll be interesting to see how that fight goes this weekend. I'm still shocked that they're a main event because I think they're both boring. However, it'll be interesting to see because I'm like, I don't know if I'll be in fill-in for the title. I don't know if I will be, fighting Rose. It's honestly something that I've been, trying to figure out. But the only reason why I don't care to fight Manon or Erin is I think they're boring. And I don't think they have a draw, and I don't think that anyone cares to see that. I know that I'm a better contender for the title, and that's why I keep pushing for my rematch because, again, just like with Rose, there's history with me and Alexa Grasso. And for me to have that rematch and for me to be able to have that storyline, it's like I fought Alexa coming off of an injury, and I won that third round. And had that been a 5-round fight, I truly believe that it would be different. And that's why I keep pushing for it. So in a perfect world, I get my rematch.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I get it. So, well, let me ask you this then. If you had the choice between, because you just mentioned Erin and Manon, not the most exciting, they are ranked higher than Rose. If you had the option and they gave you Rose or they said the winner of Erin and Manon, what would you choose?
Oh, my rematch with Alexa.
but let's say the rematch is next.
Oh man, I think for the fans, I think it'd be a better fight for me to fight Rose.
Okay. I like the honesty.
I think it would mean more. I don't think fighting Erin or Manon means that much, honestly. It doesn't mean that much.
Okay,
to me,
that's fair.
fighting someone who is a former champion and fighting someone who has been in the division longer and fighting someone who I truly respect as a fighter and an athlete would be Rose. And I think that that's also a fight that would actually bring fans to want to watch. I don't think anyone cares to watch Erin or Manon fight.
Would you want to be a backup for that title fight? Because it looks, I mean, the rumor is, and they haven't announced it yet, but I'm assuming they're going to do Grasso and Shevchenko at the Sphere in September, right? Like they did last time. I know Valentina doesn't really want to do that. She feels like the crowd is on Alexa's side because it's Mexican Independence Day, but we'll see if that comes up. But let's assume they do fight in September. Would you want to be a backup, or do you want to fight someone else just to keep active?
You know, I think that's a conversation that I have to have with Mick and everyone. Yeah. But for me, like I also don't want to sit around. I don't want to sit around and wait for that. So it would be more of like what matchups make sense. I think that in the meantime, if I wasn't to get that rematch or to fit in for the backup for the title, I think that fighting Rose would make sense in the meantime. But it's kind of a weird spot because, again, like I said, you have the champ and Valentina fighting right now, and then you have Erin, and then Rose just fought. So we're kind of all like in the same timeline, and it all just depends on injuries and matchups and everything. So we'll see.
Okay, well there you go. What do you think of Grasso and Shevchenko coaching the Ultimate Fighter? Will you be watching?
Yeah, of course. Like I always try to pay attention and watch the girls in my division, and also, you know, fighters. We watch fights no matter what. So it is fun to watch and sit down and watch the Ultimate Fighter. So I definitely will be tuning in.
Would you ever coach that show?
Absolutely. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I think that I'm one of the personalities that could just definitely bring some drama and a little bit of like honesty and truth and just some personality to the show.
We're going to end this doing some rapid fire questions. I've been doing this with all the fighters, and just whatever comes to mind on this rapid fire, just say what's on your mind, doesn't matter. And you can't say yourself. That's the only stipulation I have with this thing. So Maycee Barber, who is the best striker in the UFC?
Best striker. Oh man. I don't know. I'm not good at these.
Okay. So someone said like like Alex Pereira or Ilia Topuria or Max Holloway or Justin Gaethje. Like those are some strike. Like there's no wrong answers here. So anyone that sort of comes to mind.
No, I know, but I'm like I always have to go with like the specifics. Okay. Who's striking? I honestly like to watch. I used to love watching Rose's striking, so I have to go with Rose.
Who's the best grappler?
Best grappler. Damian Maia.
That's a great answer. Who is the funniest fighter?
Merab.
Excellent choice. If you could have dinner with any fighter, who would it be and why? And I'll also preface this by saying like fighters will say like Habib or GSP because they can sit and like learn from them or something. Is there anyone like that for you?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to sit down and have a conversation with Connor.
Okay, great choice. Maycee, who would you want by your side in a street fight? Hopefully you're never in one, but who would you want by your side?
Honestly, probably Justin Gaethje.
Okay. Who has the highest fight IQ?
Oof. That's a tough one. There's a lot. Former fighter, I always thought that James Krause had a really high fight IQ.
Excellent choice. And then last one, what's a dream fight you'd like to see in the UFC?
For myself or for other people?
For other people.
You know, I don't know. That's another one. I don't know.
What do you got planned for the rest of the week? You said you're going traveling a bit. Take me through what you got planned going forward.
Yeah, the next couple of days, I'm going to go out to Arizona and hang out with some friends. And then we're going to road trip to Vegas. And then I don't know what we're doing. I'm just kind of living over here.
Yeah, non-fight related.
We're going to hang out in Vegas for a couple of days. I think we have a couple appearances to do. And then after that, go back to Arizona. And then I have to get situated in Sacramento. I'm still waiting on my leg to heal. Like, I still have an infection in my leg. So as soon as I'm off antibiotics, I'm like, I want to be in the gym. Like, I'm going crazy over here, not able to train.
If you could pick when you fight next, when would that be? Or you just want to wait how everything heals first and then decide that?
Given this, like how scary this situation was, like I'm trying not to force myself back too fast, and I'm like trying to take the time to be patient. But July, August, September would be like probably the perfect. I'd like to fight 3 times this year, and I know that every fighter's like, I'd like to fight 3-4 times, but it would be nice. But again, like given the division, given where we're at, and then also given the situation with my infection in my leg. So there's a lot of factors that are playing into this. So in my perfect world, probably be August,
Perfect.
July, August.
Sounds good. Maycee, we went way over time, but thank you so much for giving me some time. If there's anyone you want to thank before we get out of here, I will give you the last word.
Honestly, just family and friends and like everybody. Like I said, like in my post is like this. Going through what I went through was like, it really makes you take a step back, and it really makes you appreciate like every single person that has been a part of the journey and of the life, not just in fighting but outside of fighting. And so I feel like for everybody that's in my life, they know who they are. Like, just like I'm very thankful to have so many people in my life.